The phone rang at 3:17 a.m. I know because I looked at the clock twice, thinking I was dreaming. Nobody calls at 3 a.m. unless someone's dead or dying. Hold on a moment before we move forward. Let us know where in the world you're watching from. And if you're loving these stories, don't forget to hit subscribe. Tomorrow's episode is going to be absolutely mind-blowing. Mary, leave the house now. Go to a hotel. Now. Richard's voice, my ex-husband, the man I hadn't spoken to in 10 years. What? Richard, what are you— Just trust me. His voice was tight, urgent. Don't pack. Don't think. Get in your car and drive. I'll explain later. The line went dead. I sat there in my flannel nightgown, heart hammering against my ribs, staring at the phone like it might explode. Richard Holloway, the man who walked out on our 27-year marriage for Diane Parker, a woman young enough to be his daughter. The man who took half of everything, including the lake house my mother left me. The man my children chose over me. I started to call him back, but something in his voice stopped me. Fear. Real fear. I grabbed my purse, threw on a coat over my nightgown, shoved my feet into sneakers and got in my car. My hands shook as I turned the key. The engine coughed twice before starting. It was October in Portland, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones and stays there. I drove toward the Comfort Inn on 82nd Avenue, the cheap one with the flickering vacancy sign. My mind was racing. Why would Richard call me after 10 years of silence? What was happening at my house? Then I saw them. 3 police cars. Lights flashing red and blue, speeding past me in the opposite direction. Heading toward my neighborhood. Heading toward Maple Street. Heading toward my house. I pulled into the Comfort Inn parking lot and sat there, engine running, watching my breath fog up the windshield. My phone buzzed. A text from Richard. Don't go back. I'll call you in the morning. That was it. Nothing else. I checked into room 114 with my credit card, which I hoped wouldn't be declined. Retirement on a teacher's pension doesn't leave much room for emergencies. The room smelled like cigarette smoke and industrial cleaner. The bedspread had a burn hole near the pillow. I sat on the edge of the bed and tried Richard's number. No answer. I tried again. Voicemail. At 4 a.m., I gave up and lay down fully clothed on top of the covers. Sleep was impossible. My mind kept circling back to the same question. What was happening at my house? And then, because the brain is cruel at 4 a.m., the memories started flooding in. The divorce. The way Richard sat across from me at that conference table 10 years ago, his lawyer beside him, and said, Mary, you have to understand. I'm not happy. I haven't been happy in years. Like it was my fault. Like I was the one who failed. You never wanted to do anything, he'd said. You never wanted to travel, to go out, to have fun. You just wanted to stay home and grade papers. I'd wanted to scream at him. I stayed home because someone had to. Someone had to make sure Tom did his homework. Someone had to drive Sarah to soccer practice. Someone had to cook dinner and do laundry and keep the house running, while Richard worked late and went to conferences and built his architecture firm. But I didn't scream. I signed the papers. I let him have the lake house because Tom begged me to. Mom, please, Dad needs this. He's going through a hard time. Tom was 22 then, fresh out of law school, already thinking like a lawyer, already choosing sides. Sarah was 18, about to start college. She cried when I told her about the divorce. But then she went to live with Richard and Diane for the summer. It's closer to campus, Mom, she'd said. It just makes sense. It made sense. Everything made sense except the fact that I'd spent 30 years building a family, and in 6 months, I was alone. The hotel phone rang at 8 a.m. I jumped, knocking over the plastic cup of water on the nightstand. Mrs. Holloway? A woman's voice, Professional. Clipped. This is Detective Laura Chen with Portland PD. We need you to come down to the station to answer some questions. My stomach dropped. Questions about what? About the business registered at your address, Holloway Consulting LLC. Are you familiar with that company? No, I've never heard of it. Ma'am, you're listed as the registered agent. The company's been under investigation for tax fraud. We executed a search warrant at your residence early this morning. The room tilted sideways. I gripped the edge of the bed. There's some mistake. I don't own any business. I'm a retired teacher. Can you come in at 10 a.m.? We can discuss it then. I agreed because what else could I do? After she hung up, I tried Richard again. Still no answer. I tried Tom. Voicemail. Sarah. Voicemail. Nobody was picking up. I drove to the police station in my nightgown and coat, not caring how I looked. Detective Chen was a small woman with sharp eyes and a firm handshake. She sat me down in an interview room that smelled like burnt coffee and sweat. Mrs. Holloway, how long have you been operating Holloway Consulting? I'm not. I don't know anything about it. She slid a piece of paper across the table. This is the business registration filed with the state of Oregon. Your name, your address, your signature. I stared at the signature. It looked like mine, but I'd never seen this document before in my life. I didn't sign this. Ma'am, we have evidence that this company has been operating for 18 months, funneling income from multiple shell corporations, failing to report over $400,000 in taxable revenue. That's a federal crime. I didn't do this. My voice cracked. I don't even know what a shell corporation is. Detective Chen studied me for a long moment. Mrs. Holloway, do you have any children? 2, Tom and Sarah. And what do they do for a living? Tom's a lawyer. Sarah's a nurse. She wrote something down. Does Tom practice business law? I think so. He works for a firm downtown. She nodded slowly. Mrs. Holloway, I'm going to be honest with you. Someone used your name and address to commit fraud. If it wasn't you, we need to figure out who it was. Because right now, you're the one holding the bag. I sat there, numb, as she explained the investigation, the evidence, the potential charges. Up to 5 years in federal prison. Fines that would wipe out what little savings I had left. When I finally walked out of the station at noon, I felt like a ghost, weightless, untethered. I sat in my car in the parking lot and tried Tom's number 1. More time. This time, he answered. Mom. His voice was flat, cold. I heard the police contacted you. Tom, what's going on? Did you register a business in my name? Silence. Then, Mom, you need to listen to me very carefully. This was a misunderstanding, a paperwork error. But the best thing you can do right now is cooperate with the investigation. Cooperate? Tom, I didn't do anything. I know. His voice softened, but it felt rehearsed, calculated. But the evidence points to you, and if you try to fight this, it's going to get a lot worse. For everyone. My breath caught. What does that mean? It means that if you take responsibility, they'll probably offer you a plea deal, probation, maybe a year of minimum security. You're 60, Mom. You don't have much to lose. But if this goes to trial, and they start digging, Sarah could lose her nursing license. I could lose my bar license. Is that what you want? I couldn't breathe. You're asking me to go to prison for something I didn't do? I'm asking you to protect your family. The line went dead. I sat there in the parking lot of the Portland Police Bureau, staring at my phone, wondering when my son had become someone I didn't recognize. I didn't go back to the motel. I drove straight to Tom's office downtown, a glass tower on Burnside Street that reflected the gray October sky. My nightgown was still under my coat. I didn't care. The receptionist tried to stop me. "Ma'am, do you have an appointment?" I walked past her. Tom's office was on the 7th floor, corner view. The kind of space that costs money. His secretary stood up when she saw me. "Mrs. Holloway, Tom's in a meeting." I opened his door anyway. Tom sat behind a massive oak desk, his laptop open in front of him. He looked up, startled, then angry. "Mom, what are you doing here? We need to talk, now." He glanced at his secretary hovering in the doorway. "Give us a minute, Rebecca." The door closed. Tom stood up, adjusting his tie. He looked so much like his father. Same jawline, same cold blue eyes when he wanted to shut you out. "You can't just show up at my office like this," he said. "You told me to go to prison." "I told you to accept a plea deal if it comes to that. There's a difference. Tom, I didn't sign those papers. I didn't register that business. Someone forged my signature." He sat down slowly, folding his hands on the desk. "Mom, the signature matches. The handwriting experts will confirm it. You're making this harder than it needs to be." "How did my signature get on those documents?" He looked away. "I don't know. You're lying." His jaw tightened. "I'm trying to help you." "By sending me to prison? By keeping you out of worse trouble?" He leaned forward, his voice dropping. "Mom, if you fight this, they'll investigate everyone connected to that business. Everyone. Do you understand what I'm saying?" I understood. He was protecting himself. Maybe protecting Sarah. Maybe protecting Diane. "Did Diane do this?" I asked. Something flickered across his face. Fear, maybe. Or guilt. "Diane has nothing to do with this. That's not an answer." He stood up again, walked to the window, his back to me. "Mom, Diane's been good to me. She helped me get clients when I was starting out. She introduced me to people. She's not the villain you think she is. She stole your father from me. Dad left because he was unhappy. That's not Diane's fault. I wanted to slap him. This stranger in a $2,000 suit who used to curl up in my lap when he had nightmares. Who used to beg me to read him one more story before bed. Who cried in my arms when his father moved out." "When did you stop being my son?" I asked. He turned around. For a second, I saw something in his eyes. Pain, maybe regret. But then it was gone. "I'm trying to protect you. Why can't you see that?" "Protect me from what?" "From yourself." He walked back to his desk, pulled out a folder, and slid it across to me. "These are the financial records the police have. Look at them." I opened the folder. Pages and pages of bank statements, wire transfers, invoices, all with my name on them, all showing money moving in and out of accounts I'd never opened. "Someone set this up," I said. "Someone who had access to my information. Or someone who was careless with paperwork and didn't realize what they were signing." His voice was gentle now, patronizing, like he was talking to a confused child. "Mom, you're not good with this stuff. You never have been. Remember when Dad used to handle all the finances? You just signed where he told you to sign." That was true. Richard had always managed our money. I trusted him completely. "Are you saying I signed these without knowing what they were?" "I'm saying it's possible." "When? When did I supposedly sign them?" He hesitated. "Diane said you signed some papers at Dad's birthday party 2 years ago. You remember that party, right? At their house?" I did remember. It was the first time I'd seen Richard and Diane together since the divorce. Sarah had begged me to come. "It'll be good for everyone, Mom. We need to move past this." I'd gone because I was trying to be the bigger person, trying to show my kids I could be civil. Diane had been sweet that night, almost too sweet. She'd given me a tour of the house, my lake house, the one my mother left me, and shown me all the renovations they'd done. "We kept your mother's rose garden," she'd said, squeezing my hand. We know how much it meant to you. I'd cried in the bathroom that night, but I'd smiled through dinner. I'd laughed at Richard's jokes. I'd signed the birthday card everyone was passing around. Had there been other papers? I don't remember signing anything except a birthday card, I said. Tom shrugged. Maybe you forgot. Maybe you were distracted. The point is, the signature is yours, and unless you can prove someone forged it, you're responsible. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Stop asking questions. This will all go away if you cooperate. I showed Tom the screen. Did you send this? No. Did Diane? He didn't answer. I stood up. I'm not taking the fall for this, Tom. I don't care who I have to fight. Mom, tell Diane I'm coming for her. I left his office before he could respond. In the elevator, my hands were shaking so badly, I had to grip the railing. When I reached the parking garage, I sat in my car and called Sarah. She answered on the third ring. Mom? Did you know? A silence. Then quietly. Know what? About the business. About the fraud. About Diane using my name. Mom, I don't know what you're talking about. Sarah, please don't lie to me. I heard her breathing, heard voices in the background. She was at work, probably. Somewhere with patients who needed her, people who trusted her. I have to go, she said. Sarah, I can't do this right now, Mom. I'm sorry. She hung up. I sat there in the dim parking garage, surrounded by concrete and exhaust fumes, and realized that I was completely alone. My ex-husband had warned me, and then disappeared. My son had asked me to sacrifice myself. My daughter wouldn't even talk to me. I drove back to the Comfort Inn and sat on the ugly bedspread and stared at the wall. The detective had given me her card. I pulled it out, looked at it, put it back in my pocket. If I cooperated with the investigation, if I told them everything Tom had just told me, they'd start looking at him, at Diane, at everyone. But if I stayed silent, I'd go to prison. At 6 p.m., someone knocked on my door. I looked through the peephole and saw Richard standing there, his hands in his coat pockets, looking older than I remembered. I opened the door. Can I come in? He asked. I stepped aside. He walked in slowly, looking around at the shabby room, the water-stained ceiling, the broken TV remote on the nightstand. I'm sorry, he said. I should have called sooner. Why did you warn me last night? He sat down in the plastic chair by the window. Because I found out what Diane was planning. She was going to let the police arrest you at your house. She wanted you humiliated. She wanted everyone to see. Why? Because she hates you, Mary. She always has. I sat on the bed. What did I ever do to her? You existed. He rubbed his face. She's jealous of you, of the life we had, of the fact that Tom and Sarah still call you Mom. They don't act like it. They're scared, Richard said. Diane has leverage over them, over me. What kind of leverage? He looked at me for a long moment, then reached into his jacket and pulled out a small silver flash drive. Everything's on here, he said. Bank records, emails, recorded phone conversations. Diane's been running this scheme for 2 years. She used your information because she knew you'd never check. She manipulated Tom into helping her set it up. She told him it was a legitimate consulting business, that it would help him build his client base. I took the flash drive. It was warm from being in his pocket. Why are you giving this to me? Because it's the right thing to do. He stood up. But Mary, if you use this, Tom will be indicted. He'll lose his law license. He'll probably go to prison. I looked down at the tiny piece of metal and plastic in my hand. My son's entire future sitting in my palm. What do I do? I whispered. Richard walked to the door, then turned back. That's up to you. But Diane's not going to stop. She'll destroy you if you let her. He left. I sat there holding the flash drive, feeling its weight, knowing that whatever I decided in the next few hours would change everything. My phone rang. Tom's name on the screen. I didn't answer. I spent the next week at the Comfort Inn, living out of my purse and a plastic grocery bag. I bought underwear and a toothbrush at the Walgreens down the street. I ate vending machine crackers and drank instant coffee from the lobby. The maid stopped coming after day 3 because I put the Do Not Disturb sign on the door and never took it down. Every morning I woke up and stared at the flash drive sitting on the nightstand. Every night I went to bed without plugging it in. Detective Chen called twice. I didn't answer. Tom called once. I let it go to voicemail. He said, "Mom, please, we need to talk about this." His voice sounded strained, almost desperate. I deleted it. Sarah texted, "Are you okay? Where are you?" I didn't respond. On day 5, I finally took my laptop to the public library on Belmont Street. I found a corner desk away from everyone else, plugged in the flash drive, and opened the first folder. There were hundreds of files, bank statements showing wire transfers from shell companies with names like Pacific Northwest Consulting Group and Cascade Advisory Services, emails between Diane and Tom discussing client referrals and fee structures, spreadsheets tracking income that was never reported to the IRS. And then I found the recordings, audio files, dated and labeled. I clicked on one from 6 months ago. Diane's voice came through my headphones, clear and sharp. "Tom, your mother's not going to find out. She doesn't even check her mail. We'll use her address for the registration, route everything through her name, and by the time anyone notices, we'll have moved the money offshore." Tom's voice quieter. "What if she gets audited?" "Then she gets audited. She's retired. She's got nothing to lose. A slap on the wrist, maybe probation, but we'll be protected. I don't know, Diane. It feels wrong." "It's business, Tom. Your father built his firm the same way. You think Richard Holloway Architects got where it is by playing it safe? Your mother never understood that. She was always too scared to take risks." There was a long pause. Then Tom said, "Okay, let's do it." I sat there in the library, surrounded by people reading newspapers and checking their email, and felt something inside me shatter. Not break, shatter. Like glass hit with a hammer. My son. My boy who I rocked to sleep every night when he had colic. Who I stayed up with through every fever, every nightmare, every scraped knee. Who I drove to basketball practice at 6 a.m. on Saturdays for 4 years straight. Who I took out a second mortgage to send to law school. He'd sold me out for money. I clicked on another recording, this one from 2 years ago. Diane and Richard arguing. "She's going to notice eventually," Richard said. "No, she won't. Mary's clueless. She always has been. Diane, this is fraud. If we get caught, we won't get caught. And even if we do, it all leads back to her. She signed the papers at my birthday party, remember? She was so grateful to be included, so pathetic. She would have signed anything I put in front of her." I remembered that night, the birthday party. Diane had been so friendly, so warm. She'd handed me a stack of papers near the end of the evening. "Just some boring legal stuff for the property," she'd said. "Richard and I are updating our estate planning. We need your signature as witness." I'd signed without reading. 4 pages, maybe 5. I'd been so focused on not crying, on not making a scene, that I hadn't paid attention. I kept listening. Richard's voice again. "What if she fights back?" Diane laughed. "Mary, fight back? She didn't even fight for her own marriage. She just rolled over and gave me everything. The house, the kids, you. She's weak, Richard. She always has been." I ripped the headphones off. My hands were shaking. An elderly man at the next table looked over at me, concerned. I grabbed my laptop and the flash drive and walked out. Outside, the October rain had started, cold and steady, soaking through my coat within seconds. I sat in my car in the library parking lot and called Richard. He answered immediately. "Mary, you knew." My voice was flat. "You knew what she was doing and you let it happen." Silence. Then, "I tried to stop her." "You tried? You tried?" I was shouting now. "She set me up, Richard. She forged documents. She used my name. She convinced our son to commit fraud. And you tried?" "She threatened me. With what?" He exhaled slowly. "With everything. My business. My reputation. She said if I interfered, she'd go public about the affairs I had during our marriage. She'd destroy the firm. I'd lose everything I built. Affairs. Plural." "How many?" I asked. "Mary, how many women, Richard? Does it matter?" "Yes." Another long pause. 4. Over the years. I'd suspected once, maybe twice, but 4. I'd spent 30 years with a stranger. "Where are you?" he asked. "The Comfort Inn on 82nd. I'm coming over." He showed up an hour later with Chinese takeout and a bottle of wine. We sat on opposite sides of the sagging motel bed, eating lo mein out of paper cartons, not speaking. The rain hammered against the window. Finally, Richard said, "I'm leaving her." I looked at him. His hair was grayer than I remembered. He'd gained weight. There were deep lines around his eyes. "When?" I asked. "I filed papers last week. She doesn't know yet." "Why now?" "Because I'm tired, Mary. I'm tired of being afraid. I'm tired of lying." He set down his food. "I never should have left you. That's the truth. I was 52 years old and terrified of getting old. Diane made me feel young again, relevant. But she's poison. She's been poisoning everything since the day I met her. You chose her over me. I know. You took the house my mother left me. I know. You let our kids forget I existed. I know." His voice cracked. "I know, Mary. And I'm sorry, I'm so goddamn sorry. I wanted to forgive him. Part of me, the part that had loved him for 30 years, wanted to reach across the bed and take his hand. But I couldn't." "The flash drive," I said. "What am I supposed to do with it?" "You turn it over to the police. You clear your name." "And Tom?" Richard looked down at his hands. "Tom made his choice. He's an adult. He knew what he was doing. He's our son. He stopped being our son the day he agreed to destroy you." The words hung in the air between us. I thought about Tom at 7 years old, gap-toothed and proud, showing me the fish he caught. Tom at 16, crying in my arms after his first heartbreak. Tom at 25, introducing me to his first big client, his face glowing with pride. When had that boy disappeared? "If I use this," I said, "he'll go to prison. If you don't use it, you'll go to prison." I knew he was right, but knowing something and accepting it are different things. Jer stood up. "I need to tell you something else. About Diane." "What?" "She's planning to leave the country. She's got accounts in the Cayman Islands. The minute she thinks you're about to expose her, she'll disappear, and she'll take everything with her." "How do you know?" "Because I helped her set them up." He looked at me, and for the first time I saw real fear in his eyes. "I'm as guilty as she is, Mary. I helped her steal from you. I helped her manipulate Tom. I stood by and watched while she destroyed everything we built. And now I'm trying to make it right, but I don't know if I can." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you need to act fast. You've got maybe 48 hours before she figures out I gave you that flash drive. After that, she's gone." He walked to the door, then turned back. "For what it's worth, I never stopped loving you. I just forgot how." After he left, I sat there on the bed, staring at the flash drive. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I know you have Richard's files. $50,000 cash if you delete them and walk away. Final offer. Diane, I typed back, no. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then, you'll regret this. I plugged the flash drive back into my laptop and started making copies. I uploaded files to 3 different cloud storage accounts. I burned copies onto 2 blank CDs I bought at the drugstore. I emailed encrypted files to myself at 4 different addresses. By midnight, I had backups of everything. At 2 a.m., I called Detective Chen. Mrs. Holloway? She sounded alert despite the hour. Are you all right? I have evidence, I said. Evidence that proves I didn't commit fraud. Evidence that shows who did. Can you come in tomorrow morning? Yes, but Detective Chen, the person responsible is planning to leave the country. You need to act fast. How do you know this? Because my ex-husband told me, and I believe him. I hung up and lay down on the bed, still fully dressed. Tomorrow I would destroy my son's life to save my own. Tomorrow I would become the kind of mother who chooses survival over sacrifice. Tomorrow I would stop being weak. But tonight, I let myself cry. Detective Chen didn't waste time. By noon the next day, federal agents had executed search warrants at Diane's office, Tom's firm, and Richard's home. I watched it on the local news from my motel room, eating a stale bagel from the vending machine. The reporter stood outside Cascade Realty Group, Diane's brokerage. Federal investigators are searching the offices of prominent real estate broker Diane Parker in connection with an ongoing fraud investigation. Sources say the case involves shell companies and tax evasion spanning multiple years. My phone rang. Tom. I answered. What did you do? His voice was shaking. Mom, what the hell did you do? I told the truth. You destroyed me. Do you understand that? I'm finished. My career is finished. The state bar is opening an investigation. I'll be disbarred. You should have thought about that before you used my name to commit fraud. I didn't know what Diane was doing. She told me it was legitimate consulting work. She said you'd agreed to be the registered agent. And you believed her? Silence. Tom, you're a lawyer. You know what due diligence means. You chose not to look too closely because it benefited you. I'm your son. Yes, you are. And I loved you enough to spend every dollar I had putting you through school. I loved you enough to work 2 jobs so you could focus on studying. I loved you enough to give you everything, including my dignity. And you repaid me by throwing me to the wolves. Mom, I'm done, Tom. I'm done protecting you from consequences. I hung up. My hands weren't shaking anymore. An hour later, someone knocked on my door. I looked through the peephole and saw a woman I didn't recognize. Mid-40s, expensive coat, designer handbag. Mrs. Holloway? I'm Jennifer Walsh. I'm an attorney specializing in fraud defense. I'd like to speak with you about representation. I opened the door. She handed me a business card embossed with gold lettering. Walsh and Associates, partner. How did you find me? I asked. Detective Chen suggested I reach out. She thought you might need counsel. We sat at the small table by the window. Jennifer pulled out a legal pad and started taking notes as I told her everything. When I finished, she sat back and studied me. You have excellent evidence, she said. The recordings alone are enough to exonerate you completely. But I need to be clear about something. If we proceed with this defense, your son will be indicted. There's no way around it. I understand. And you're prepared for that? I thought about Tom's face at 7 years old, at 16, at 25. Then I thought about his voice on the phone that day in the police station parking lot. You don't have much to lose, Mom. Yes, I said, I'm prepared. My retainer is $12,000. I pulled out my checkbook. It was the last of my retirement fund, the emergency savings I'd been hoarding for years. After this, I'd have maybe $3,000 left in the bank. Jennifer took the check. We'll win this, Mrs. Holloway. I promise you that. After she left, I drove to a coffee shop with free Wi-Fi and started searching for information about Diane, her real estate license, her business partners, her social media accounts. That's when I found it. A Facebook post from 3 days ago, Diane standing in front of a luxury condo with a sold sign. The caption, "Another successful closing. Thank you to my amazing clients for trusting Cascade Realty Group with your biggest investment." The comments were full of congratulations, but one caught my eye, from someone named Marcus Chen. "Diane, you need to call me ASAP. Something's wrong with the earnest money deposit on the Henderson property." I clicked on Marcus's profile. He was a real estate attorney. I sent him a message. "Mr. Chen, I'm involved in a legal matter concerning Diane Parker. Would you be willing to speak with me?" He responded within minutes. "Call me." We talked for an hour. Marcus told me that Diane had been under investigation by her brokerage for mishandling client funds. Small amounts at first, a few thousand here and there, but recently, she'd gotten bolder. "She's been living way beyond her means," Marcus said. "Designer clothes, luxury cars, that house in Lake Oswego. Nobody at the office could figure out where the money was coming from." "Shell companies," I said, "funneling unreported income through my name. Jesus." He paused. "Mrs. Holloway, I'm going to make some calls. The Real Estate Commission needs to know about this." 2 days later, the news broke. Diane Parker had been terminated from Cascade Realty Group for violation of ethical standards and misappropriation of client funds. Her real estate license was suspended pending investigation. I saw it on the same news channel that had covered the federal raid. The reporter was practically gleeful. Diane Parker, once one of Portland's top-earning real estate brokers, is now facing multiple investigations and possible criminal charges. That evening, Diane showed up at my motel. I saw her through the window before she knocked. She was parked in a black Mercedes, gripping the steering wheel, her face tight with rage. Finally, she got out and walked to my door. I turned on my phone's voice recorder and slipped it into my pocket before opening the door. "Mary." Her smile was brittle. "Can we talk? About what?" "About making this go away." I stepped aside. She walked in, looking around at the shabby room with barely concealed disgust. "Quite a step down from Lake Oswego," she said. "I'm comfortable." She sat on the edge of the bed, crossed her legs. She was wearing a cream-colored pantsuit that probably cost more than my monthly pension. "Look, I know we've had our differences, but this has gotten out of hand. Has it? Richard gave you those files to hurt me. He's always resented my success, my independence, the fact that I didn't need him the way you did." "Is that what you think? That I needed him?" "Didn't you?" She tilted her head. "You never worked a real job. You never built anything. You just coasted on Richard's income and then acted surprised when he got bored." I sat down in the plastic chair. "Keep going." "I'm offering you $50,000, Mary. Cash, tax-free. All you have to do is tell the police you made a mistake, that you were confused about the business registration, that you actually did sign those papers knowingly." "Why would I do that?" "Because $50,000 is more than you'll see in a year on your teacher's pension. Because you're living in a motel that charges by the hour. Because you're alone and broke and nobody in your family wants anything to do with you." I let her words hang there for a moment. Then I pulled out my phone and stopped the recording. "What are you doing?" Diane asked. "Making sure I have evidence of you attempting to bribe a witness in a federal investigation." Her face went pale. "You recorded me." "Every word, including the part where you admitted the business was fraudulent." She stood up fast. "You bitch." "Probably. But I'm a bitch who's not going to prison for crimes you committed. Tom will hate you for this. Tom already hates me. I've got nothing left to lose. Diane walked to the door, then turned back. You know what Richard told me once? He said you were the biggest mistake of his life. He said marrying you was like putting on a wet coat that he could never take off. It should have hurt. Maybe a month ago it would have. But now I just felt tired. Get out, Diane. After she left, I emailed the recording to Detective Chen and Jennifer Walsh. Then I lay down on the bed and stared at the water-stained ceiling. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. Mom, is it true? Did Diane really try to bribe you? I stared at the message. Sarah had been silent for weeks. Now suddenly she wanted to talk. I typed, yes. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Sarah, I'm sorry. Me, for what? Sarah, for not believing you, for not calling, for being a coward. I didn't respond. After a few minutes, another message came through. Sarah, Tom's falling apart. He called me crying. He says Diane manipulated him, that he didn't know what he was signing. Me, do you believe him? Sarah, I don't know what to believe anymore. That made 2 of us. The next morning, Detective Chen called. Mrs. Holloway, I wanted to update you. We've arrested Diane Parker on charges of wire fraud, tax evasion, and witness tampering. The recording you sent was extremely helpful. What about Tom? The U.S. Attorney's Office is offering him a deal. If he testifies against Diane and provides full cooperation, he'll plead guilty to 1 count of conspiracy. 18 months. Likely suspended to probation and community service, plus a $75,000 fine. 18 months. Suspended. Probation. He'd keep his freedom. Maybe even his law license eventually. And if he doesn't take the deal? I asked. Then he goes to trial with Diane. And if he's convicted, he's looking at 5 to 7 years minimum. What's he going to do? His attorney advised him to take the deal. But he hasn't decided yet. After we hung up, I sat there thinking about choices, about the moment Tom had to choose between his mother and his future, about the moment he chose his future. Now I'd given him another choice, betray Diane and save himself, or stay loyal and lose everything. I wondered which version of my son would show up. Tom showed up at the motel 3 days later. I heard his car pull into the parking lot, the engine idling for a long time before shutting off. Through the window, I watched him sit there, head down, hands gripping the steering wheel. Finally, he got out. He looked terrible. Unshaven, wrinkled shirt, dark circles under his eyes like bruises. When he knocked, it was soft, almost hesitant. I opened the door. Can I come in? His voice was barely above a whisper. I stepped aside. He walked in slowly, looking around at the motel room that had become my home for the past 3 weeks. The stained carpet, the broken TV, the stack of instant noodle cups on the nightstand. Jesus, Mom, he said. You've been living here? It's all I can afford. He flinched. I didn't know things were this bad. You didn't ask. He sat down on the edge of the bed, elbows on his knees, head in his hands. The U.S. attorney offered me a deal. I know. 18 months suspended, probation, a fine. He looked up at me. But I have to testify against Diane. I have to tell them everything. That sounds fair. Fair. His voice cracked. Mom, my law career is over. Even if I keep my license somehow, no firm will touch me. I'm a convicted felon. I'll never practice law again. I sat down in the plastic chair. You committed fraud, Tom. You knew what you were doing. I didn't. Diane told me it was legitimate. She said you'd agreed to be the registered agent. She said it was just a way to structure the business for tax purposes. And you believed her? He looked away. I wanted to believe her. Why? Because she was helping me. She was sending me clients, introducing me to people with money. My practice was struggling, Mom. I was barely making rent. And then Diane started referring people to me. And suddenly, I was billing 6 figures a year. Blood money! I didn't know that. He stood up, pacing. I swear to God, I didn't know she was committing fraud. I thought it was just aggressive tax planning. Rich people do it all the time. Rich people don't use their mothers as fall guys. He stopped pacing. No, they don't. We sat in silence. Outside, a siren wailed past on 82nd Avenue. When did you know? I asked. When did you realize something was wrong? He sat back down slowly. 6 months ago, I got a call from a client asking about a payment to Pacific Northwest Consulting Group. I'd never heard of it. I started looking into it and I found your name on the registration. I confronted Diane. What did she say? She said it was a mistake, a paperwork error. She said she'd fix it. He rubbed his face, but she didn't fix it. And then the IRS started asking questions, and I realized how deep this went. I tried to back out, but Diane said if I did, she'd make sure everyone knew I was involved. She said she'd destroy me. So you let her set me up instead. I panicked, Mom. I was scared. I didn't know what to do. You could have told me. I couldn't, his voice broke, because I knew you'd do exactly what you did. You'd turn me in. You'd sacrifice me to save yourself. That's what you asked me to do, I said quietly. You called me that day in the police parking lot and told me to take the fall. You said I didn't have anything to lose. I was wrong. Tears were running down his face now. I was so wrong, Mom. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I wanted to forgive him. Every instinct in my body screamed to get up, to hold him, to tell him it would be okay. That's what mothers do. We forgive, we protect, we sacrifice. But I stayed in the chair. I can't help you, Tom. I'm not asking you to, I needed you to know that I'm sorry, that I was manipulated, but I should have known better. I should have protected you instead of protecting myself. Yes, you should have. He wiped his eyes with his sleeve. Diane told me things about you. She said you were jealous of my relationship with Dad, that you tried to turn me against him during the divorce, that you were vindictive and controlling. And you believed her? I wanted to believe her, because it was easier than admitting that Dad was the one who abandoned us, that he chose Diane over our family. If I blamed you, I could still have a relationship with him. So you threw me away to keep him. Yes. He looked at me directly for the first time. And I've regretted it every day since. There was a knock at the door. I looked through the peephole and saw Sarah standing there, her hands clasped in front of her stomach. I opened the door. Mom. Sarah's eyes were red. She'd been crying. Tom texted me. He said he was here. Come in. She walked in and stopped when she saw Tom. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Then Tom said, I'm sorry, Sarah, for everything. Sarah sat down on the bed next to him. That's when I noticed it, the slight swell of her stomach under her sweater. Sarah, I said, are you pregnant? Yes. She put her hand on her belly. 12 weeks. My first thought was joy. My first grandchild. Then reality crashed in. Does Tom know? I asked. I just told him. Tom was staring at Sarah's stomach like he'd never seen anything like it before. A baby, he whispered. A baby, Sarah confirmed. And Mom, I need to ask you something. I need you to not destroy Tom. I sat back down slowly. Sarah, please. Her voice was desperate. He made mistakes, terrible mistakes. But he's my brother, and this baby is going to need an uncle. And I need my brother. He committed fraud. I know. And he should face consequences. But Mom, if he goes to prison, if his life is destroyed, How does that help anyone? How does that help you? It helps me stay out of prison. You're already out of prison. Detective Chen told me this morning that they're dropping all charges against you. You're clear. You won. I looked at Tom. He was crying again, silently, his shoulders shaking. If I ask them to go easy on him, it looks like I'm complicit, I said. No, Sarah said. It looks like you're his mother. I've been his mother for 32 years. Where did it get me? Sarah stood up and knelt in front of my chair. She took my hands in hers. Mom, I know we failed you. Both of us. We chose Dad. We chose comfort over loyalty. We let Diane poison us against you. But we're trying to come back. We're trying to be your kids again. Please don't give up on us. I looked down at my daughter, 28 years old, pregnant, still believing that love could fix everything. Tom has to take the deal, I said. He has to testify against Diane. He has to pay the fine, all of it. He will, Sarah said. He already decided. Tom nodded. I'm taking it. I signed the papers this morning. And you have to accept that I might never trust you again. I know. And you have to live with the fact that you tried to send your mother to prison. I'll live with it every day for the rest of my life. I pulled my hands away from Sarah and stood up. I need some air. I walked outside into the gray November afternoon. The motel parking lot smelled like exhaust and rain. I stood there, arms wrapped around myself, shaking. Behind me, the door opened. Sarah came out alone. Tom's in the bathroom, she said. Mom, I need to tell you something. Something I should have told you months ago. What? I knew about the business. Not all the details, but I knew Diane was using your name for something. Tom told me last year. He asked me if I thought you'd be okay with it. I told him no. I told him to tell you. But he didn't, and I didn't push it. I was a coward. Yes, you were. I'm pregnant and alone, she said. The father left when I told him. I have no money saved. I'm barely making ends meet on a nurse's salary. And I'm terrified, Mom. I'm so scared I can't breathe sometimes. What do you want from me, Sarah? I want my mother back. I want to know that when this baby comes, I won't be alone. That you'll be there. Even after everything we did. I looked at her. Really looked at her. She wasn't 28 anymore. She was 7 years old, wearing fairy wings, asking me to come see her dance recital. She was 13, crying in my arms about the girls at school who called her ugly. She was 18, hugging me goodbye before leaving for college, whispering, I love you, Mom, into my shoulder. I don't know if I can forgive you yet, I said. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm just asking you not to disappear. Tom came out then. He stood next to Sarah, the two of them side by side, waiting. My children, who'd broken my heart, who'd betrayed me, who were still somehow mine. Tom takes the deal, I said. No negotiation. Done, he said. And both of you go to family therapy with me. Real therapy. For as long as it takes. Sarah nodded. Yes, and Sarah, you move out of wherever you're living and you find a place near me, because I'm not driving across town at 3 a.m. when that baby decides to come. Okay. She was crying now. Okay, Mom. I looked at Tom. You broke my heart. I know. It's going to take a long time to fix. I know. But you're going to try. Every day, he said. I promise. I nodded once. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't even close. But it was a door, opened just a crack. 6 months later, I stood in the kitchen of the Lake Oswego house, my mother's house, watching the April rain through the window. The rose garden was blooming again, pink and white petals scattered across the lawn like confetti. Richard had signed the house back to me in February, part of his divorce settlement with Diane. He didn't ask for anything in return. It should have been yours all along. he'd said. We'd met at a coffee shop to sign the papers. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. The divorce had cost him most of his savings and half his business. Are you staying in Portland? I'd asked. For now. Tom asked me to stick around. For the baby. I'd nodded and signed my name on the deed transfer. Mary Holloway, sole owner. Now I walked through rooms that used to be mine, touching walls that Diane had repainted, examining furniture she'd chosen. Slowly, I was making it mine again. I'd replaced the modern sectional with my old floral couch from storage. I'd hung my mother's paintings back on the walls. I'd planted new roses in the garden. The house was coming back to life. So was I. My phone rang. Sarah. Mom, I'm at the hospital. My heart stopped. Is it the baby? I'm in labor. Can you come? I grabbed my keys and drove to Providence Portland Medical Center, the same hospital where I'd given birth to both my children 32 and 28 years ago. Sarah was in a birthing suite on the 4th floor, her face pale, her hand gripping the bed rail. You made it, she said, relief flooding her voice. Of course I made it. I held her hand through 7 hours of labor. Tom showed up around hour 3, bringing flowers and looking terrified. I've never seen anyone give birth before. He whispered. Neither have I, Sarah said through gritted teeth. So we'll figure it out together. At 9:47 p.m., Lily Grace Morrison entered the world. 7 pounds, 4 ounces, with a full head of dark hair and her mother's eyes. Sarah cried when the nurse laid her on her chest. Tom cried. I cried. She's perfect, Sarah whispered. Mom, she's perfect. I looked down at my granddaughter, this tiny creature who shared my blood, who would never know the woman I'd been 6 months ago, the woman who lived in a motel and ate vending machine food and thought she'd lost everything. Yes, I said. She is. Later, after Sarah and the baby were settled in the recovery room, Tom and I sat in the hospital cafeteria drinking terrible coffee. I completed my community service last week, he said. 300 hours at the legal aid clinic downtown. How was it? Humbling. He stirred his coffee absently. I represented people who actually needed help. People with real problems. Evictions, wage theft, domestic violence. Made me realize how much time I wasted chasing money. Are you going back to law? I don't know. The state bar review is in August. They'll decide if I can keep my license. But even if they let me practice, I'm not sure I want to. Not the way I was before. What do you want? He looked at me. I want to be someone you're proud of again. I was always proud of you, Tom. Even when I was angry. Even when I hated what you did. You're still my son. His eyes filled. I'm in therapy 3 times a week. Doctor, Morrison specializes in family traumas and manipulation. She says Diane exhibited classic narcissistic patterns. That she isolated me from you gradually, convinced me you were the problem. Do you believe that? I believe I let it happen. I believe I wanted to believe her because it was easier than examining my own choices. He set down his coffee. But Mom, I also have to own what I did. I committed fraud. I tried to make you take the fall. Those were my decisions, not Diane's. I know. Do you forgive me? I thought about it. Really thought about it. I'm working on it. Ask me again in a year. He nodded. That's fair. We sat in silence for a while. Then Tom said, Dad wants to have dinner. All of us. You, me, Sarah, the baby. No, Mom. Tom, I'm glad your father gave me back the house. I'm glad he finally did something right. But I don't want to have dinner with him. I don't want to pretend we're a family again. That ship sailed 10 years ago. He misses you. He misses the idea of me. The woman who made everything easy for him. But that woman is gone. Tom studied me. You're different now. Yes, I am. Stronger. No. Just done being weak. 3 weeks later, Tom showed up at the Lake Oswego house on a Saturday morning. I was in the garden planting vegetables. I'd decided to grow my own food this year. Tomatoes, lettuce, herbs. Something about putting my hands in dirt felt like reclaiming something essential. He stood at the edge of the garden holding a bouquet of tulips. My favorite. "Can we talk?" he asked. I sat back on my heels, wiping dirt on my jeans. "Sure." He handed me the flowers. "I got my bar decision yesterday." "And?" "Suspended for 2 years. After that, I can reapply." "I'm sorry." "Don't be. I deserved it." He sat down on the grass next to me. "I'm thinking about going back to school, getting a master's in social work. The legal aid clinic offered me a job as a case manager, non-attorney position. I'd help people navigate the system, connect them with resources." "That sounds good. It doesn't pay much, $38,000 a year, but it feels right." I looked at my son. He'd lost weight. His expensive suits had been replaced by jeans and a Patagonia jacket. His hair was longer, less styled. He looked younger somehow, more like the boy I remembered. "I'm proud of you," I said. His face crumpled. "Really? Really?" He started crying then, the ugly kind of crying that comes from someplace deep. I pulled him toward me and held him while he sobbed into my shoulder. "I'm so sorry, Mom," he kept saying. "I'm so sorry." I know you are." When he finally stopped, he pulled back and wiped his face on his sleeve. "Can I ask you something?" "Anything." "Do you think you'll ever trust me again?" I looked at the garden, at the roses, at the house that was finally mine. "I don't know, Tom. Trust isn't something you can force. It grows slowly, like plants. You have to tend it every day." "I'll tend it," he said, "every single day, for the rest of my life if I have to. That's all I can ask." He stood up, helped me to my feet. "Sarah wants to have you over for dinner tomorrow. She's finally figured out how to cook while holding a baby. I'll be there. And Mom, thank you for not giving up on me, for not disappearing. You're my son. I couldn't disappear if I tried." After he left, I went back to my garden. The afternoon sun was warm on my shoulders. Somewhere in the house, my phone was ringing, but I didn't rush to answer it. For the first time in 30 years, I didn't feel the need to be available every second. I planted 3 more tomato seedlings, watered them carefully, marked their spots with little wooden stakes. By next month, they'd be flourishing. By summer, they'd bear fruit. That evening, I sat on the back porch with a glass of wine and watched the sunset paint the sky pink and gold. The house was quiet in a way that felt peaceful instead of lonely. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. "Lily wants to know if Grandma can babysit Tuesday. I have a doctor's appointment." I smiled and typed back, "Tell Lily yes. Grandma will be there." Another text came through, this one from Tom. "Starting my new job Monday. Wish me luck." I sent back a thumbs up emoji and a heart. Richard had texted me twice this week asking to meet. I'd ignored both messages. Maybe someday I'd be ready to have that conversation, to hear whatever apology he'd rehearsed. But not today. Today I was content in my solitude, in my garden, in my slowly reconstructed life. The doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. Through the peephole, I saw Tom standing there again, his hands shoved in his pockets, looking nervous. I opened the door. "Did you forget something?" "No, He shifted his weight. "I wanted to see if you'd come to my first day at the legal aid clinic, Monday at 9. They're doing a welcome orientation for new staff. It would mean a lot if you were there." I looked at my son, at the hope in his eyes, at the vulnerability he was offering me. "Okay," I said. "I'll be there." His face lit up. Really? Really? He hugged me quickly and left. I stood in the doorway, watching his car disappear down the driveway. Inside, the house felt different. Still mine. Still quiet. But no longer empty. I walked back to the kitchen and looked at the calendar on the refrigerator. Monday was circled in red now. Tom's first day. Tuesday, babysitting Lily. Thursday, lunch with Sarah. My life was filling up again. Not with obligations or sacrifices, but with choices. My choices. I poured another glass of wine and went back to the porch. The stars were coming out, bright against the dark April sky. Somewhere out there, Diane was sitting in a federal prison in California, serving year 1 of her 5-year sentence. The irony wasn't lost on me. She'd tried to send me to prison, and ended up there herself. Karma, people called it. Justice, others said. I just called it done. My phone rang, Richard's name on the screen. This time, I answered. "Mary," he said. "I wasn't sure you'd pick up." "I wasn't sure either. How are you?" "I'm good, Richard. I'm actually really good." A pause. "I heard Tom got the legal aid job, and that Sarah's doing well with the baby." "She is." "I'm glad." Another pause. "Mary, I was wondering if we could talk. In person. There are things I need to say. I thought about it. About the man I'd loved for 30 years. About the stranger he'd become. About whether any of it mattered anymore." "Not yet," I said. "But maybe someday." "I'll wait," he said. "However long it takes." After we hung up, I sat there holding my phone, looking at the roses in the garden, at the house that had been taken from me and given back. I'd lost almost everything. My marriage, my savings, my sense of self. I'd lived in a motel for weeks, eating instant noodles, wondering if I'd survive. But I had survived. More than that, I'd rebuilt. And now, standing in the ruins of my old life, I'd found something I'd never had before. Freedom. Not the kind that comes from money or security or family approval. The kind that comes from knowing you can stand on your own, that you can fight back, that you don't need anyone's permission to exist. I raised my glass to the darkening sky, to my mother who'd left me this house, to the woman I used to be, and the woman I was becoming. "Here's to second chances," I whispered. And then I went inside to plan what I'd plant next in the garden.